Once there was an African leader with a vision for the continent. Many have given their lives. We can mention Patrick Lumumba, Steve Biko, or Thomas Sankara. In this video, I will share the story of an African leader who desired independence for his nation, seeking real economic and political freedom. This, however, alarmed Western nations that did all they could to destabilize or even kill him. To such an extent that they devised a very Machiavellian plan they called Operation Persil. Hello, I am Mr. RS. Welcome. This text contains 47 characters. If you don't know the story of Operation Persil, get comfortable. I will try to tell it briefly, succinctly, and accurately. I would like to begin by expressing my apologies to the loyal viewers for my absence. It is uncommon for me to be away for such an extended period of almost a month. I had a lot going on, of things to manage personally, and I'm also working on a project that will be coming soon. As you may know, I started a project to create a mini documentary during my last trip to Africa to showcase the vibrant youth, the people who are making a difference, still part of the YouTube vibe. Now I'm back, get comfortable, and let's go. Let's go. During the years when France was embroiled in a bloody war with Algeria, it was in this context that General de Gaulle came to power and he launched a major decolonization project. This was because African countries were increasingly demanding decolonization. The whole world was also calling for decolonization. Thus, General de Gaulle would embark on this project to decolonize Francophone Africa, specifically the countries they had colonized. Naturally, this project was not without its unhealthy attention. Let me explain. De Gaulle didn't want to decolonize merely for the sake of it. He aims to decolonize while keeping the well-known France-Africa partnership, which includes financial support, but mainly seeks to retain control over the continent's wealth. So in this situation, he will undertake a large project to visit Africa and meet with African presidents, to entertain them with serenades. In brief, it's all a small play. This goes along with the public receptions they have when they reach the countries. However, he decides, continuing his travels, to land in Conakry, to explain once again his famous partnership project. And the reception he receives is as it should be. Everything goes perfectly well. But he does not expect to run into a pragmatic politician with a strong personality. In this case, Ahmed Sekou Touré. At that time, Sekou Touré is only 6. He is a deputy mayor in the RDA, and he will genuinely challenge Charles de Gaulle publicly in front of everyone. He will give a speech in which he states that we will not renounce our autonomy. We will never yield our independence. He will even add later that he chooses to be a free and poor country over a rich country in slavery. To me, it's a clear way of saying, get lost, give me my freedom. This speech will really upset Charles de Gaulle, particularly because it's in front of everyone. It's a little black man, and moreover, it's not the best timing since, as I mentioned, France is already in trouble with the war in Algeria. Also, a few years back, there was the Vietnam War. Thus, from an international standpoint, France must demonstrate that it has a firm hold. And above all, the little African colonists should not give others any ideas. So, of course, Charles de Gaulle does not really handle this speech well. He will even call off all the meetings he had set with his tailors, all the little dinners he had planned. In short, everything is cancelled, and he goes back to France. But, as is often the case, if you know a bit about African history, whenever a president has attempted to stand up to Western countries, it's not just France. All Western countries colonized the continent. Well, often there were problems lurking behind. Thomas Sankara. Rested, he gave a speech, clearly stating that I will be assassinated if I do not repay the debt. I don't remember the speech, but I'll try to illustrate it for you. And 3 months later, he was murdered. So in the case of his tailors, this did not please Charles de Gaulle. Therefore, he returns to France. And very clearly, his tailors become the ones to target. But initially, they want independence right now. That's truly the priority. Following this, a referendum will be organized on the continent for the French-speaking countries colonized by France. And in this referendum, they will have to decide whether they want to remain under France's influence until the end of the year, when they will be independent, but not really. As they will have a partnership, they will have financial aid. In short, you understand. Most French-speaking countries say yes to independence in mid-1960, 2 years later with this famous continuity partnership. But Guinea wants independence now, right now. So a referendum is organized, and it's a yes at 95 for immediate independence. Charles de Gaulle can only abdicate. He officially says if they want independence, they can take it. So Guinea is independent. However, France never recognized Guinea as a state on that date. Again, France, this doesn't shock me because, well, it's not Africa, but none of the nearby African nations recognize Guinea as independent. Only Ghana, only Cuba, and any Eastern European country backed Guinea. So, at that moment, Sekou Touré felt cheated. And worse still, on the day of this independence, September 28th, 6 months if I'm not mistaken, I will provide the correct date as an illustration. On that day, French forces pillaged the bank where the BCIAO's reserves were held. So Sekou Touré had a project. They heard that Sekou Touré had a plan because he decided to create the Guinean fund to stop depending on the CFA fund. I won't go into the CFA fund debate, but if you have any sense, you know that this currency is a fraud. Thus, he will get in touch with the forces of Eastern Europe and the currency. The Guinean fund will be established from Eastern Europe. Now Guinea has its own currency. In this context, certain French military forces will pillage the last CFA fund reserves, and worse yet, to effectively sabotage Sekou Touré's plan, they will introduce numerous counterfeit Guinean banknotes into circulation to undermine this new currency. But again, I want to say, it's mild, it's very mild. Given what was done before and what happened in the years that followed, one could say that France was lenient, but no. Thus, there is a force known as the SDECE, the French Counterintelligence Service, which turned into the DGSE, and this force has been tasked with the mission to take out Sekou Touré. At best, to oust him from power in moderate cases, and in the worst case, to destabilize him and undermine his credibility with the people. Thus, they will begin to take opponents of Sekou Touré's rule who are in exile. They will provide arms and training, and the most incredible thing is that their operations were not centered in Paris, Toulouse, or Montpellier, but it was in Abidjan and Dakar. I am unsure how Sekou Touré learned of this operation, but swiftly, he denounced it globally. Operation failed. Pan out. So Sekou Touré was not murdered, he was not taken hostage, he was not a victim of military plots, because he quickly realized what was happening. However, financially and economically, Guinea was severely impacted because all the attempts, all the financial support, all the Machiavellian procedures were put in place to really weaken the Guinean front as much as possible. This is why you often hear people claim that the Francophone nations that lack the franc are strong. Consider Guinea as a case study. Thus, the case of Guinea, if you want to consider it as an example, it is not a good example, since I do not claim that all of France's actions justify the Guinean front's weakness. I just mean that they have greatly contributed to weakening this currency, putting Guinea in a very complicated economic situation for a country that is very rich in resources. Rich. Not everything explains the dysfunction of the country, but Sekou Touré dared to stand up to great France, and he nearly paid with his life like Thomas Sankara, like Patrice Lumumba. Well, Patrice Lumumba was not directly France, but like other countries, other African leaders who dared to stand up to France. This is really the story of Operation Persil, and if you ask why it was named Operation Persil, you will find the meaning is even more shocking. For those who know a bit, for those in the West who do laundry, there's a product called Persil, which is still called Persil. They named this Operation Persil because it was about cleaning, nothing more, nothing less. So it was a video on Operation Persil. I hope that if you weren't familiar, you've understood some of the stakes. You've learned a bit about Guinea's background, so it comes from very far away. It hasn't had the more favorable context that others have. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. Until then, take care and we'll catch up soon. Bye bye, love.